What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to another reaction video. Today on my channel, we are back. We are here. Now, I want to give a special shout out to y'all. Yo, the daily life in the 1970s, the video got over 600 views, bro. Clap it up for y'all. I love the engagement. I love everybody that lived in that time, you know, putting their experiences in the comments. I appreciate every single one of y'all, bro. Because guess what? We are here with the 1960s. Now, this is I wasn't even thought of. You know, I wasn't thought of in the 70s. Really not thought. My mom wasn't even born yet, bro. Here we are. The 1960s, daily life and pop culture. Make sure you go to Reading Through History on YouTube. Subscribe, leave a like, because he actually puts all this stuff together. And, you know, he educates us, bro. So, like I said before, put your educational hats on, bro, because we about to experience some stuff that a lot of us today don't even know of, you know? So, here we go.
The 1960s was a turbulent decade in the United States. There were many different changing attitudes about society and culture. How did the average American live in the 1960s? In many ways, life in 1960s America was very similar to the preceding decade.
Remember that movie Pleasantville? This is what this looks like. It was with Reese Witherspoon and Tobey Maguire.
Especially in the early 1960s. The family unit was still very important, with the average American getting married and having children in his or her early 20s. For most women, raising families took precedence over going to college or starting a career.
So this was the stay-at-home mom era.
The average home included a father who worked, a mother who stayed at home, and several children. Divorce rates were low at the beginning of the decade, with about 23% of marriages ending in divorce.
Wow.
By the end of the decade, this number had risen to about 35%.
That's still low. That's crazy.
However, as the decade progressed, more and more young women began to defy the traditional role of the stay-at-home mother. In the latter half of the 1960s, more women were attending college and more women were joining the workforce.
Okay.
Sometimes this was out of necessity, as families needed additional income to make ends meet as the price of everyday items continued to rise.
That's crazy because they were making like what? I think in the 70s they said they was making like $1, $2 as minimum wage. Somebody wrote in the comments and said they worked and they made $50 a week. And that was after your training. I might be paraphrasing, but he said something like that. And that's wow, bro. That's crazy.
In 1960, the average income per year was $5,315, and by 1969 was $8,540. However, the salary someone made would have depended on what type of position they held.
I'm sure doctors was like
gender might also have played a role in someone's salary.
Gender definitely played a role.
At the time, men were frequently paid more than women for performing the same job.
That's crazy.
Minimum wage jobs paid about $1 an hour in 1960.
Hold on. $1 an hour. You have the minimum average is $5,000 a year. How much are the bills? Wait a minute. I'm looking at this. Is those cents? Those are cents. 40 cents for a barbecue burger? You know, I need to know the math on the inflation rate, depending on the prices, how much things cost, and how much you make, because that's crazy.
By 1969, this had risen to $1.60. A new home in 1960 cost approximately $12,700.
Wish I was like
but by
that today.
1969, the price was $15,500. Of course, the actual cost of a home would have largely been determined by how nice the home was, as well as what community and state it was in. A new car could be purchased in 1960 for
That's a
about
beauty.
$2,600.
That is a beauty.
While the price in 1969 was $3,270.
And that's a lot of money back then.
Again, this would have varied greatly depending on the make and model
Boy, you got one of these, you the man.
of the
I'm trying to
car
tell
being
you,
purchased.
you are the man.
A gallon of gas for this vehicle would have cost about 25 cents in 1960.
Gas was 25 cents, bro. 25 cents?
While in 1969 would have been closer to 35 cents.
That's
A loaf of bread in the
amazing.
1960s might cost about 20 cents,
Yeah, I
while a
need to
dozen
know.
eggs could be purchased for about 50 cents,
I just
and an
paid-
oven-ready turkey might cost 39 cents a pound.
That's crazy.
A gallon of milk in 1960 would have cost about 95 cents. By 1969, this price had risen to $1.10.
I just spent $6.38 on a gallon of milk, bro. Mother. $1.
Men's shoes could be purchased for about $13, while a suit might have cost about $30.
That suit clean though.
A woman's dress might have ranged anywhere from $7 to $30.
I don't
A
understand.
new
that
table
fashion.
and chairs would have cost about $160, while a recliner might have cost about $100.
Boy, a recliner don't even cost that. The recliners are way expensive now for no reason. They like almost $1,000 for a single chair, depending on the material. It's stupid.
In the 1960s, the American family continued to devote more time to leisure activities. Television continued to develop its dominance as the number one activity to consume most of that leisure time.
My aunt had one of those.
Watching television was still largely a family activity, but television programming became more diverse to meet the interest of everyone in the family.
Yeah, you only got one TV in the
Western
crib.
still
Woo!
dominated much of the television landscape. Gunsmoke,
I was about to say that. My grandma loves Gunsmoke, bro. Gunsmoke and Bonanza. Yo, I'm like, what is this?
Bonanza,
Yeah, I just said that. Yes.
Rawhide, and Wagon Train were all extremely popular shows during the decade.
That's
In fact,
crazy.
in terms of number of viewers, Gunsmoke and Bonanza both finished in the top 10 nearly every year of the decade.
That's why she loved it. It
The
was
Andy
the best show
Griffith
on
Show.
TV.
My Three Sons,
I like the Andy Griffith Show.
The Dick Van Dyke Show,
That's a pretty good show.
and The
too.
Beverly Hillbillies were all family-oriented situation.
I've never watched the Beverly Hillbillies, but I had a guy that keep talking to me about it. When did what's that one show? I can't remember. He's a detective.
comedies,
Oh my God,
which
it's
were
gonna
very
bother me.
popular in the 1960s. Meanwhile, shows such
Star
as
Trek.
Star Trek, Batman, Mission Impossible, and Lost in Space attempted to
Yo, look at this Batman, bro. Oh my God. No way.
attract younger viewers.
Why he look like Muhammad Ali?
Many of these programs have had a lasting cultural impact, which is still felt today. Americans have always enjoyed going to the movies, and the 1960s was no exception. The most successful film of the decade was The Sound of Music,
The
starring
Wizard of Oz.
Julie Andrews.
Wizard of Oz.
Andrews also impressed audiences in her starring role in Mary Poppins.
Okay, I can see that.
Audrey Hepburn was also very popular with roles in My Fair Lady and Breakfast at Tiffany's.
I heard of the second one.
John Wayne remained popular as well, with starring roles in films like The Longest Day, The Sons of Katie Elder, El Dorado,
El Dorado.
and True Grit. Meanwhile, Clint Eastwood
There we go.
became a
That's
leading
my boy
man in
right there.
westerns like A Fistful of Dollars and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yes, sir.
Sean Connery introduced the world
Uh-huh.
of James Bond, starring in
James
Dr.
Bond.
No, Goldfinger, Thunderball, and many more.
Okay, they got some classics. They got some classics.
Psycho, The Birds, Dr. Strangelove, The Graduate, Lawrence of Arabia, and Dr. Zhivago were other highly acclaimed films of the decade.
I don't know none of them.
101 Dalmatians,
Classic.
The Sword and the Stone,
Okay.
and The Jungle Book
Yes,
were the
sir.
most popular animated films of the 1960s.
Fire.
Baseball has always been regarded as
Is this the
America's
Babe Ruth
national
era?
pastime, and the sport was wildly popular in the 1960s. In 1961, Americans were enthralled by Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris's efforts to break Babe Ruth's single-season record of 60 home runs.
When was Babe Ruth playing if they was trying to break his records in the 60s? That's crazy.
Maris accomplished the feat, slugging 61 home runs.
Dang.
Other players that dominated the decade included Carl Yastrzemski, Frank Robinson, Willie Mays,
I know Willie Mays.
Hank Aaron, Bob Gibson, and Juan Marichal.
Yeah, I don't watch enough baseball to know these
The
people.
National Basketball Association
Here we
produced
go.
several legends throughout the 1960s.
Larry Bird.
Coach Red Auerbach led the Boston Celtics to 9
Or was that the
NBA
80s?
championships during the decade.
Might have been the 80s.
The Celtics were led on the court by Bill Russell, who won the
Okay.
Most Valuable Player award 4 times.
And 11 rings.
The most dominant player of the decade was Wilt Chamberlain, who also won 4 MVP awards, led the league in shooting percentage 7 times, and led the league in rebounds 8 times.
Yeah, they're the biggest dudes out there.
In college basketball, the UCLA Bruins were the talk of the country. The Bruins and coach John Wooden won 5 NCAA championships in the 1960s.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Muhammad Ali was the dominant
sir.
boxer of the decade. Ali became the heavyweight champion in 1964 after defeating Sonny Liston. He would go on to become one of the most iconic figures of the decade, both for his abilities as a boxer and for his political and social activism. The world of 1960s popular music was incredibly diverse.
Yeah, he got a big nose.
The British invasion brought groups like the Beatles and the
Okay.
Rolling Stones to American audiences. The Beatles would debut in 1963 and go on to be the biggest musical sensations of the decade. Before the end of the 1960s, they would produce a staggering 19 number 1 songs.
Didn't Michael Jackson buy their masters? Like, I think he owned all their music. And they were, like, a huge commodity in the music industry. Which is crazy, because I probably know songs, but I would never go out of my way to listen to the Beatles. Because I just haven't. I should, you know? I love music, but I just haven't. It's crazy.
A wide variety of other music was available, though. Bob Dylan, Janis Joplin, the Beach Boys,
I like the Beach
the
Boys.
Doors, Jimi Hendrix,
Jimi
and
Hendrix.
The Who all offered vastly different styles of music for many different tastes.
It's crazy. The Bob Dylan. I didn't know who Bob Dylan was. Y'all gonna kill me in the comments. I didn't know he was until his movie just came out, The Complete Unknown. I'm like, who the hell is Bob Dylan? Come to find out, he got a movie about his life, bro. I do like the Beach Boys and Jimi Hendrix. I don't know the other ones.
With Fargo, your virtual assistant from Wells Fargo, you can access your FICO score in a snap.
What I would give to be able to make art on this scale.
Motown also provided its own unique sound with performers like the Supremes,
Yes, sir.
the Temptations,
Temptation.
and Marvin Gaye.
Love him. Love it. I
However-
love it all.
The biggest musical event of the decade
Don't tell me. Is this Woodstock? Is this Woodstock? Are we here for the Woodstock
happened
train?
in 1969. The music festival known as Woodstock occurred from August 15th to August 18th of 1969.
Bro,
This music festival brought more than 400,000 people together near White Lake, New York, with 32 different performances over the course of the 3-day event.
there's a documentary out that they played in the movies about Woodstock. And that's how I got informed of what Woodstock was. Man, incredible documentary. If you want to listen to something and educate yourself on something, it's Woodstock, bro. Because you wouldn't believe it if somebody told you.
In clothing and fashion, many things began to change. In the past, children and
Flint.
teenagers had always dressed in a similar fashion to their parents. However, in the 1960s, teens began to develop their own fashion trends, completely independent of the adult world.
I guess taking
More
off
women
your shirt
began
was
to
the
wear
thing?
pants as opposed to dresses and skirts.
Okay.
The hemline of skirts continued to get shorter with the introduction of the miniskirt
Because it
in
went from up here
1964.
and then it started going down.
In the latter half of the decade, bell-bottom jeans, tie-dye shirts, and paisley prints became more prominent.
This is the hippies, bro.
Young men started wearing their hair much longer than in the past, while many women opted for shorter hairstyles.
I can dig it.
It should be noted that not every family experienced the 1960s in the same way. These were just a few of the broad trends that were predominant throughout the decade. Each family and each individual had a unique situation with their own stories, tastes, and preferences.
Y'all see that right there? Give me a thumbs up. The 1950s are coming, bro. What I do, I really appreciate the time this guy took to, give us what it was like back then, because I love the different cultures. I love the different eras. I love how, as humans, the evolution by the decade completely changes by the decade. Like it's like on point from the beginning of the 60s to the end of the 60s is the 60s. And then the 70s, from the beginning of the 70s to the end of the 70s, is completely different from the 60s, and so on and so forth. It's amazing. It's such an amazing evolution of life. Technology, what people like, the entrance. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing, bro. It's crazy. This dude said, born in 49, graduated in 67. I have to honestly say the 60s and 70s were the best years of my life, except for 70 and 76 in the Marines. That's one thing they did not touch on. A lot of men going into the military, because people were in Vietnam. There was a lot of wars going on around that time. I don't know my education on wars that well, but I know the Vietnam War existed. People going into the Marines, people going into the Army. People can't afford certain things, so they go to the military to try to get some money to, support their families and whatnot. People get married and move their family onto the base, because that's how because it's just another survival tactic, It's just you're putting your life on the line, But it's crazy, bro. It's so crazy. The 60s had the best R&B music. Okay. Had to watch this for an assignment about the 1960s. You picked the right video, bro. The right video. My English teachers are using this to help us learn the 1960s, and for once there aren't comments like, wow, teachers are using this to teach. No, this is actually really educational. I like this. If I wasn't doing videos, I would still watch this. This is amazing. What do you say? TV stations signed off at 1 a.m. in the 60s and 70s. So I would sit up all morning and on the weekends and learn to play the guitar. So TVs go offline? Dang, that's like when you catch the bus and the bus line stops until 5, 6 o'clock in the morning when they start back up again. That's how TVs was. That's amazing. I'm 47. I remember my dad loved watching Gunsmoke. That's my grandma. My grandma loved Gunsmoke. That's amazing, dog. I love this so much. Give it a thumbs up. Go to reading through history to learn some historic stuff. It don't take much to just listen and learn. Now with all this technology, it's hard for you not to learn something every day. If you want to do something to educate yourself, to better yourself, learn something new every day, because it is something new out there for you to learn. And something's going to pique your interest, and you're going to go down a rabbit hole because you're going to want to learn. Your brain is going to be eager to learn once you start learning, Ooh, I sound smart. Let's go. Make sure you leave a like, subscribe, share with your friends, turn your notifications on. I appreciate every single one of y'all. Man, I love the love and the support, and let's see if this surpassed 600 views like last time. I don't know. I did the 1970s, 1980s, and that didn't do too well, but we'll see. 1960s, it's a different time. I need to see them thumbs ups and them views for me to do the 1950s, and I know y'all want to see that. That's back. It's back. I don't even know what was going on back then for real. So it's gonna be new to everybody today, not y'all, but I'm gonna get about this video. I'm talking too much. I thank y'all and I love y'all. I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.